that's that's a long road for.
Yeah, but that's some of the best.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I'm not. It didn't go over my head. Okay.
No, good.
Okay. Just in case.
Hit you right in the forehead.
There are
right between the eyes
of that.
It's here we are again. Another week. Another call. But
it flew by.
I've got I did something with the drill this morning that is pretty exciting. The extent of my handiness. And
is it sexual in nature? If so, we may have to do it offline.
Well, no. I mean, holes were made, but that's what drills are for, right?
Well, why don't you just jump into it?
Would you like me to tell you about it? So, I recently purchased a brand new computer monitor. Previously, I had two 20-inch monitors side by side, and also like my laptop up on a laptop stand. So I had three screens, which was fine, but it got to be a little much, and like I had them all like suspended off of my desk with arms and stuff. And the way my desk is set up, it's not like up against a wall or a corner or something. Like you can walk behind my desk, and like the arms are just kind of ugly. And so I've been wanting to fix that at some point. And I finally decided to pull that trigger, and I bought a big wide, it's called an ultra wide screen. It diagonally it's 40 inches.
Holy shit.
It's a big boy.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
And that how far away from your body is that? 2 feet?
I mean, the camera you're seeing me on is right there, so arm's length. But it's really sharp, and so with that, I decided to finally organize the cables and shit on my desk, because with two monitors before, there were cables running everywhere.
We're coming up on the drill. I can tell.
And it and this monitor only has you only need to have one cable in for the signal and one cable in for the power. And my other requirement is that I now, with a new job I'm taking, I have a second computer. So they sent me a computer that I have to do all my work on, and I still have my personal laptop. So that makes it kind of awkward to like context switch throughout the day. If I want to do something with photos, then it has to be on my personal computer. But if I'm doing work, then that's on the work computer.
So how'd you solve that?
Well, there's something called a KVM. It's a keyboard, something and mouse. They used to be these old. Used to plug your keyboard and your mouse into this thing, and then you'd have a big switch on it to turn. And whichever way you switched it, it would direct your keyboard and mouse input into a different computer. So you could be using two computers on the same desk. And similar with a monitor. And the modern ones now, it's just a little push button thing to toggle between them. So I bought one of those, and I've plugged my keyboard and mouse into that, and both computers into that, and then out of that comes the cable to the monitor. And so whenever I want to switch computers, I can just press this button, and everything goes black for 5 seconds or so, and then it comes back up, and I'm on the other computer. But
Yeah, cool.
what I'm really pleased.
So to the drill.
Well, what I'm really pleased about is that I managed to mount both laptops on the underside of my desk. I bought little shelf hooks, and the laptops now can work in what they call clamshell mode, where they're closed. It just operates as a computer. You plug in a monitor, and so I've got both of them mounted under my desk, as well as the box that my microphone cable goes into that you're hearing me with now. And I found
So there's nothing on your table but your keyboard, and you're looking at your screen?
And the monitor, yeah, exactly. Which is...
Yeah,
and so...
I don't know, Go ahead.
What? So in order to accomplish this, I needed a way to get the cables from my monitor under the desk. And I didn't want them to go all around, so I drilled a hole right in the center of my desk. So it's like right under my monitor.
Drill, baby, drill.
It's a big,
drill, baby,
big hole.
Drill.
And so I went to Amazon and I bought, those things those little covers that you can put on desks to run cables through, but then like you can sort of cover them up. You familiar with this?
Yeah.
So I bought a 3-pack of those because that's the way they sold it. I only used one, but it also came with the drill bit that was the right.
Oh, like a
size.
door handle drill. Big cylinder with teeth on it.
Yes, exactly. Door handle.
And
drill,
you went from the top down.
I went from the top down. The desk was a lot harder and thicker than I expected. There were, I had some trouble. It's like there was one point where like the friction got so hot it was sort of like smoking.
Smoking, yeah, that's common. It's a very heavy. What's the table made of? Pure wood, oak.
It's got to be. It's compressed wood. Like there's layers of wood.
Internal, like pre-made wood, man-made.
Yeah. It's not a one piece from a tree.
Well, so the power of the drill would be a question, and the sharpness of the cut.
Right. So the drill bit was brand new and seemed sharp enough, but yeah, it took me a while. Eventually, I got, because the way that drill bit works is there's one sort of regular drill bit in the center, and then the teeth around the outside.
Yeah, right.
And so eventually, I saw the little hole come through on the underside of the desk, and
splintered.
I was pushing hard.
Splintered out. Splintered.
Barely, not that bad.
That's why you go from the top down like you did, because there's always
right, exactly
at the exit wound, so to speak.
But I couldn't.
So was it black? Was the wood starting to get a little black when it smoked?
Yeah, there was.
How far down in the wood were you? Were you not even halfway yet?
Probably not even halfway. Yeah.
Yeah. I think what happened was that the cheap drill they gave you became unsharp enough that it just didn't. There's drill bits I use that are titanium.
Oh, sure.
They can cut concrete and steel, and you put one of those on there, and bam. So they're
for sure. It was probably a shitty product, but
a cheap, yeah.
And
but
so
you
then
got it done.
Then for the last bit, I actually did go under the table and put the thing in the hole that had already come through and meet sort of in the middle. And that was interesting because I don't really have like safety goggles, and I was trying to do it, but it was like shit getting my eyes, and I went and I looked. I looked for swimming goggles, was my first idea. But I couldn't find any of those. And then I saw an old pair of my wife's huge sunglasses that sort of cover everything. So I put those on. It was under the desk.
Did you get a picture?
No, none of that.
Picture? No. Oh, you're so cute. Women's glasses to fix your desk. That's
exactly
nice. Hey, tell AI you want an image of that. We'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. I
All right? Of you.
And so now I have everything going through this one little discrete hole, and nothing on the desk. It's just pure minimalist elegance.
How nice. And you have a clean sheet of paper. Uncluttered desk, uncluttered mind.
Indeed.
That's what I tell you. It's the case. Before I do anything, I straighten things up. I've got a little screen. I got a little portable computer with a screen that's like 14 inches across and very small. I got my little stand in my little office. I left, an office in my old house that I don't know if you even knew, but I had purchased way back in the day when we lived out in Hillsdale, a oak desk of gigantic proportions, just the finest craftsmanship, very large, flat,
nice,
big, heavy drawers, and a credenza that matched, and an oak swivel chair that matched all that. And in my second house, after I bought it, I had an office and in a bedroom upstairs. It was fabulous, great, big, huge, floor-to-ceiling windows on one wall. And I paid like, I don't know, $5,000 for that, as well as the love seat, the couch, the chair, and the ottoman that also was in my office because it was so big.
Right.
It was a living room office. And so the story is, all that money, probably $2,500 or more back in the day. 20 years ago. What's that today?
Right.
$5,000 or $6,000, and I went to sell it, and ended up. Somebody said to me, "Can I buy just the desk?" And I said, "No, I really don't want to break it up." I took it to a shop that does this sort of thing. And a long story long, they ended up reducing the desk and the credenza to $30 each to get somebody to move them, because they had a 1 month turnover or 2 month turnover or something like that, 6 weeks.
Sure.
That if it didn't sell, you reduced, and I ended up taking the one of the pieces, which was a side table made out of maple that has a drop leaf on it that goes from 34 inches off the floor, right where the top is. Drop leaf on both sides go all the way to the floor. So when you open it up, you've got almost 6 feet of additional table space from this table.
Okay, wow.
It's, and it's, when it's down, it's only 20 inches wide. So you set it up against the wall. It's wide enough for a narrow chair to go in there. So you can use it as a 2-top, as well as, frankly, an 8-top, at least 6. If you were to open a restaurant using these, for example. And by the way, thank you for the, and by way of changing the subject, thank you for sending me the marvelous ad and video from the what is it called? The steak? Oh no, was London Broil? Is that the name of the restaurant?
No, it's some French name. Le Relais de Venise, l'Entrecôte. Which, something about Venice. Like there were murals on the wall of Venice, Italy, at the place.
But because
it was in London.
Europe. Yes, but it's the motif though.
Right.
Is specific to France. So why the Italian mountains?
The name of it is about Venice, but in French. So, I don't know. Let's see. They have locations in
that
Paris, London, Mexico City, Monaco, and New York.
Wow. What was amazing to me was the sauce.
Yes.
Knowing French cooking, how ultra buttery and delicious that is, and why they cut their steak so thin for the sauce, and the fact that when you get that served to you, you say, "And please, I'd like a double side of the sauce," which I would pour on my French fries.
Yep.
And be very, very happy. And a little salt and pepper to the French fries. And look out, chow down, baby. Chow down.
It was pretty delicious.
Baby. Did you eat your second full steak or no? You got
two servings. The second serving wasn't quite as big as the first, but yeah, they definitely gave some more steak and then another helping of fries.
So did I tell you the fishing story where I was going into town on a Wednesday, and a restaurant that I glance at has a big sign out front. It said all you can eat shrimp 6 to 8 o'clock, and made note of that, and then went to the river, and then got out of the river hours later, then went to a local bar and got hungry and thought, I'm not going to eat Mexican at the best Mexican place I've ever eaten at in my life, in this bar in the middle of Newaygo, Michigan, with 6 storefronts as a downtown, right on the Muskegon River. And so I went there, and I didn't know what to expect. I mean, what do you get? And so they served it in a creamy butter, parsley, pepper sauce, like you would put on angel hair spaghetti. And they get the first serving of it, where the side, what the side was, etc. And I got a side of maybe pasta for all I remember, but it came in a large quantity, and the shrimp were each as big as your thumb if you were cutting your thumb off as if it were a chicken wing, so that there's a lot of meat here. That's how big they were. And they were perfectly cooked. They came to the table still cooking, fresh out, and they were so hot to the touch that was like, whoa. And when you put it in your mouth, you realize that they had it just finished. So it was all you could eat. And the waitress came by whenever there was, 10% of the food left, enough 2 shovelfuls or whatever, and said, "Would you like a reorder?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And then I said it again, "Oh yeah," and all I ate was the shrimp. I don't think I ate much of my side dish, of course, whatever it was. And may have been rice, may have been limited choice. I don't eat much rice. And then she comes around and she says, "I think you could eat one more little one." And gives me a half dish. And indeed, as I got the half dish, I thought, you are now past the point of gluttony, because the only thing you desire is the taste. You might as well chew it up, taste it, and then spit it out. Which, of course, I didn't do. In the last shrimp, sopping up the buttery parsley pepper sauce and thinking, I said, "Oh my God, I got to get to my truck and drive home, which is going to take 3.5 hours."
Oh God.
Boy. Yeah, and
you just ate like 4 pounds of shrimp or whatever.
How often do you do this? And she said, "We do it every week."
Damn.
But I never fish on Wednesdays, and you know why. So it was an odd moment, but that's I like a restaurant that is known for its quantity, because I'm a big eater, and I really appreciate chefs who understand that. And know that while presentation's important, it doesn't need to be cute.
Right.
It needs to be well presented, but it doesn't need to be cute. And there was a restaurant, God, I should know this, and maybe I should look it up. It's in Minneapolis, St. Paul. famous for this, where they serve steaks, particularly, that hang off the plate and touch the tablecloth. They're enormous. They're 18 inches wide. They're 2 inches thick. When they bring you your side dishes, they bring you whole heads of broccoli and whole loaves of bread, entire baskets full of mushrooms that have been cooked in butter. I mean, bowls, huge. Everything in the place is enormous. It's expensive. And you're like, what? Well, sure, I'll pay that. I'll pay that. You know.
Yeah, as long as you're not eating like that every day.
Well, no, of course not. Nor could you afford it. But the fame of that restaurant, and I've been to one in New Jersey, was the same way. Then there's a sandwich shop down in New Orleans that's the same way, where it's impossible to eat a sandwich in this place. The sandwiches are literally 18 inches tall, full of meat.
Wow.
It's 18 inches. I mean, there's pictures of me in this sandwich that is taller than my head. You know, and give me a to-go plate, to say the least. But the other, in that particular base, the quality of the meat is outstanding. It's the best pastrami you've ever had. It's the most delicious turkey you've ever had. It's Italian salami that is like to die for. The cheese are room temperature and just sweating with fucking aroma and fucking flavor.
Sweating with
bread.
aroma.
It's good bread, home baked bread, pumpernickel and rye, and just trays of mustard and pickles and ketchup and mayonnaise, and you get the sandwich and everybody has one. And like, what the fuck? We're gonna be here for 2 hours.
I'll just get the sandwich. Yeah.
There's pictures galore, and it's a deli too. They sell the meat over the counter and you can grab it. These are two of the most famous for that quantity. The New Jersey one is probably likely desserts too, where you get a half a pie. And a serving bowl for 4 of ice cream, and everything is big. Everything is big. Sandwiches. That place, that's in New Jersey, out on the Philly, New Jersey line, if I recall, that road that gets you there. So quantity's great.
Boy, I'm feeling full just talking about all this.
It's food for thought. It is indeed.
Thought for food.
Food for thought.
Amazing. And let's see. So, do you have any other takes on this? NFL commencement speech scandal that wasn't just
I heard the speech and the comments and saw some of the news about it, and a joke that you sent it to me actually, but I had read about it earlier and seen the video earlier by the time you gave me this wonderful Jon Stewart stuff.
Yes. So good.
Where he said he was talking to women that just spent $185,000 to become mechanical engineers, and he was saying this about women. And so this was my thought. I thought this is kind of, in my view, probably a heartfelt but not particularly intelligent speaker,
sure,
who didn't think about his moment and what he wanted his moment to be, because he's not a well-known guy. He's not the quarter. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not fucking Kelsey Travis.
He was a kicker, right?
And he is a kicker, yes. And kickers, by the way, are the most prolific scorers on most teams. I don't know if you figure that, but it's true.
But yeah, you don't have to
very important to the team.
Be super bright to be a good kicker, I guess. Just put in the
no, and you don't. The physical attributes of kickers and physical needs of kickers are obviously far different than what many positions call for. So, and I thought that he was misguided, and I thought that he made himself look rather foolish by not gauging the importance of what he was saying against the whole world. And one would say, well, it was heartfelt and he didn't care about that. And I thought, well, he should. Because he could have said that in a way that didn't get negative press. He could have said that in a way that doesn't change his intent whatsoever, but he knew his audience wasn't just those kids there, that it was the world because it was being taped. Right. And it was going to be for posterity. He was doing it for posterity. That's the fucking name of the speech. They're walking away with a speech about that. And so but young and foolish. And my final thought was, so what? I don't give a fuck.
Let's repeat what he said. He addressed the clip I saw. He didn't actually specifically address women, but he's of you here graduating today, probably the most important thing or whatever is going to be the families that you create or the children that you have or something, right?
No, he said it was specific. No, it was specifically about the role of a wife. He said, I know many of you here today, you know that your important role in the future will be as a wife and a mother.
Right.
I don't know that he used the word wife, but he used the word mother. I think it was or maybe a spouse and whatever, in raising a family and like in God's good grace or something and so it was just a tone deaf thing to say and to understand that the percentage of women in that audience that was true was not the majority. And what he was doing is he was separating, he was aligning as a speaker to all, he was aligning with 30% of the audience. Right. And basically saying to the other 70% of the audience, basically, if you don't feel this way, then you're not in the same tribe as me. That's what he was doing. And so that's foolish. That's foolish. And frankly, it wasn't his job. That's not what he was asked to do.
Right.
He was asked to help all the students think about their future prosperity. All of them.
Yeah.
Not a subset. So foolish. And so what? At the end of the day, it's like, well, that's an interesting bit of news. Let's move on.
Right, exactly. It's nothing there. But yeah,
He'll probably write a book.
Right. The higher education women have, the fewer children they have, like across the world.
Yeah.
Which, if you're giving a commencement speech at a university, take that.
You certainly don't have a bunch of kids, unless you're Deborah Winger in terms of endearment. That wasn't it. She didn't go to college.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, hey.
Yes.
Politics desk.
Yes. You there?
Last week, Joe Biden says, hey, pal, make my day. I want debates, 2 of them. I want one early. No audience. We cut off the mics if you stray. Like you said, pal. Anytime, any place. Oh, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. Trump, I said at the session, it would be interesting to hear what their response is. And my guess is that they're going to have to respond quickly. But I don't know what that response will be. They all have to scramble. it wasn't an hour after we cut our broadcast that Trump camp came back and said, we agree, and took the heart out. I think we already covered that last week. But now it's been confirmed. They've got the moderators selected. It's Dana Bash and Jake Trapper. And Jake Trapper, he only does a fucking television fucking podcast that's like the indictment of Donald Trump, or the dispirited afterlife of Donald Trump's rotting carcass. I mean, he's and Dana Bash is as sharp as they come.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the format is no audience. And
you can do it over Zoom.
Cut off a mic. What's that? Yes.
You can do it over Zoom.
Yes. Actually, that's not a bad idea.
You don't need a venue.
That's not a bad idea. Except the that does distract from the debate in terms of measuring how one does in
and being able to interrupt each other
situation. How do you do when you're confronted? How do you do when someone's calling you a name? What that's much more personal, right? And so, but you're right to the you could. It would be a distant plan, but if it was COVID.
Except then half of it would be, Mr. President, you're on mute. Mr. President, press the microphone. No, the microphone button. Mr. President, you're on mute.
No, that is a that is a letter opener. That has nothing to do with the computer. You can set that down. No, don't point it towards your throat. We know you're unhappy with the format. So I read every day about the campaigns. I get these newsletter that's remarkably good. Axios is quick and dirty, and 2-minute read, 3-minute read, and they tell you that up front, and so you can zoom through it. And Biden's campaign is doing a remarkable job at attacking their eroding support among Black and Latino voters, doing an admirable job to be determined as to whether the impact is there or not. But Trump, who's doing the courtroom campaign, trying to catch up with fundraising that he's having a hard time doing. But interestingly enough, having like Biden, a policy division of his campaign that actually has published a kind of riveting quasi-authoritarian agenda that will take place that includes completely changing the nature of civil service in the federal government to loyalists, etc., and also another arm of the campaign that is vetting, as we've discussed, 30,000 potential federal employees so that they're ready on day one. They're gathering together probably on the verge of 250 executive orders that Trump will sign on day one. And those executive orders will all have the force of law and will change the definition of democracy at the presidential level, which is ill-defined beyond the Constitution, and in terms of specific powers and duties is pretty clear, but in terms of organization and administration only says support the values and principles of the Constitution and doesn't spell anything out.
Right. And we never had to.
There you go. Right. A lawsuit and appeal and appeal. You can't do that. Yes, I can. It's done until I'm told by a court I need to stop, which even then I may not stop.
Right.
I'm going to keep doing it. That's the power of the office. And so what Trump is doing, what Trump's campaign is doing, now being run by ultra trained and experienced campaign managers on one end, in another area, development, in another area, state in community level offices and buildings. They've got plenty of money. They just don't have nearly what Biden has. And so those are all moving. And here's my point, then I'll stop. Trump never talks about any of that. He never even mentions any of the things I just described. Not the policies. He drains the swamp, of course, which in general is the point. Never talks about how he's going to do it, but no. How he's going to do it. You do it through executive order. And what he talks about instead, there was this release that talked about the most often used terms and words of Donald Trump, and it gives you. I love the version of that assessment being words of different sizes.
Yeah, a word cloud. So
it was a word cloud. I was going to call it that, and of course you would know.
So
but it's a similar thing. Yeah.
It sounds like you're describing what we initially feared last time, but didn't really fear, like that. Like, if he had any competence to fuck things up, then we would be in a really bad place. But the fact that he was so incompetent made it so not all that much got broken. But now you're telling me that he's got actual competent actors that know what they're doing, and that's pretty terrifying. And also, who are these people? Because, historically, his closest allies have been obviously these yes men buffoons that end up always getting fired, or whatever, or turning on him or something. But like, are these well-known people that are his operatives here?
I think you've got something wrong, and that's this: is that Trump is not a leader. Trump is a follower.
Right.
He is a follower, and the only way that the ways that Trump has gotten ahead in his crazy world was by listening to his lawyer Cohen about how to act and how to run and how to work in New York, and then later other similar type advisors, including point here Steve Bannon, who basically is the dude who groomed George Bush. What's his name? I'll remember it in a minute. But George Bush was groomed.
Like Cheney seemed like the
Cheney actually was
operative.
Yes. But Cheney and Karl Rowan is the name.
Karl Rove.
Karl Rove.
Yes.
And so he is the Karl Rove, and so the other person of influence was Adolf Hitler, who probably. It could have been a recommendation from someone, but it may have been the one thing that Trump kind of went toward himself. One of the things we've mentioned before on this talk show has been the pictures. I believe you identified these images of comparison of Mussolini. Not Mussolini.
You were the one that created that brought that
up.
I
did. We should find that again and post that, because that to me, and this, little did anyone know then, this was 6 years ago.
Right.
I'll bet, right?
Yeah.
Or more, 8 years ago. 8 years ago. 2016.
Yep.
Am I right? And so, how prescient they were. That that now it's out of the cat's out of the bag.
But he's always had a crush on dictators, and admires.
I'm not saying that's new. Yes, but
and admires that level of
imagery
of power. Of you have to do what I say. The end.
Well, the person who put that shit together took that a step further than we could have imagined by showing these absolute similar images between him and Mussolini. And I don't know how much photography you've done, but I've done plenty. And it's actually when you've got two subjects that are oft photographed over years, then it's really not hard to be able to make that match. I did it in these catalogs that I did for my brothers when my parents passed, and I did albums for them which showed them in their early days when they were dating, in their 18, 19, 20-year-oldness, right? And my dad, went into the Navy, to their senior years when they traveled quite a bit. And they had poses that I was thrilled about this, that not only had the same poses, a man puts his arm around a woman a certain way. On the right side, usually, or whatever, or the left side, and she turns to him a certain way, and he kisses her in a certain place on her head. And he's done it forever. And so that scene, that part of it, the figuration of the people is one thing. But what I found was similar backgrounds. So a background early on of being on a dam or on a precipice, looking into a river or whatever, and then the same thing later in years. And so, but this thing with Mussolini and Trump is worth looking at again.
Yeah,
for our listeners,
I looked for that.
The carload of Indiana. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, I looked into.
You've got a delay. You've got a delay tonight. Do you know that? Your lips and your voice. Sometimes I can't look at you because your lips are out of sync, and it confuses me. So I'm so feeble-minded. I can't. I've got to look down. You're like somebody's. It's maybe you're speaking Chinese and it's being translated. I'm not sure, but anyway, sorry to interrupt. You don't need to edit that out because I think that's a story to tell.
Interesting. No. That's sometimes latency happens with internet connections, and sometimes I lose your video entirely.
It doesn't usually happen. Your earbuds have nothing to do with that, or do they?
I wouldn't. I mean, they do add some latency, but only in that I would hear you slightly later, but I hear you talking when your mouth moves, so it shouldn't be that. It's got to be something else. But
and so my lips and vocals are in sync.
More or less with that huge bushy beard, but yes.
So what? This is how you just look, more or less. More or less.
Yeah.
More or less. Oh, guess what I rewatched last night? Entertainment Desk.
Yes.
Star is Born. Star is Born. Lady Gaga.
Okay.
And my God.
The remake. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, that's an impressive movie. I've never seen the original. Have you seen the original?
Yeah, Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson. I did decades ago. I thought the other day how I'd like to see it again because I wonder what type of star Barbara Streisand was, because Chris Christopherson, similar to Jackson Maine, was a country kind of guitar picking guy.
Sure.
It's very interesting. I'll tell you one thing that I realized that I wanted to share with you from the rewatch was there's a scene where Sam Elliott, who plays his older brother Bob Maine, he when Jackson finds out that Bob had sold the ranch and his father's grave was nowhere to be found, he got to him at one of the gigs when they were setting up and punched him in the face, and as Bob got up off the ground, he had what became a near final words for his brother, and he quit. And one of the things that they were back and forth on was the talent, and Dad's talent and his talent, and this and that and the other. And Jackson said to him, your problem is that you didn't have the talent to ever get anywhere, and so now you're resigned to being, my bag boy, or something like that, which is what I
think I remember that scene. Yep.
But what Bob said to him, and this is my new thing that I understood. What Bob said to him, yeah, if you think that I was so terrible, why did you steal my voice? And I realized this time, and I listened for it, that Jackson Maine's voice connotation vocalization has got the same cadence and the deep growl of Sam Elliott throughout the entire movie. And when I tried to pinpoint at the beginning of this movie, who does he sound like? And I kept thinking, is it Jeff Bridges from Lonely Hearts? No. Who is it? Is it Chris Christopherson? Maybe a little. He's got that low gravel. Then I realized it's fucking Sam Elliott. That's what he's doing the whole movie. And I was thrilled at the genius of those actors and that director doing that. Well, of course, it was directed by.
Yeah, that's a pretty good movie. It won some Oscars, I believe.
It did win. It won an Oscar. I think it won Best Picture.
It might have, yeah.
It certainly came, the soundtrack was astounding. Lady Gaga's range, of course, is something that's exquisite.
Just wild. Yeah.
There's nothing the woman can't sing. The way that she is so shy and
that's that scene where she goes from shy, I don't think I can, to just belting out the song. That's
well, and interestingly enough, she does it, not surprisingly either for that matter, is that first she won't go on stage, then she knows she has to go on stage, then she goes on stage and she's singing second fiddle, and she's doing basically a call and response, and then in a moment's notice, she grabs hold of the chorus that they had worked on once. They exchanged it in the parking lot while they were fucking eating Cheetos, and her hand was bandaged with a bag of fucking frozen peas. And she took charge then. She never looked back from that point. She never looked back. She let it go, and Jackson Maine knew. He knew and was so celebratory about that. The moment that she sprung forth was one of the happiest moments of his life.
Yep.
One of the happiest moments of his life. And everything went downhill from there for him. The excruciating Grammys scene, excruciating, so painful, pissing on stage, and well, it was the scene that ended up provoking his suicide by her manager. Her manager, whose name I can't recall, wonderful actor, went to see him, knocked on the door, and Jackson said, well, she's not here yet. And he said, I know. She said it'd be okay for me to get here and wait for her. And he sat down on the table next to the recovering Jackson drinking water, and he said, you need to know something. You have almost destroyed her career, and we barely survived this, and she won't tell you this. You're one step away from replacing that bottle of water with what you really want, and when you do, you can't be anywhere near her. So you need to understand, and that I understand, this isn't going to happen. And it was that night that Jackson killed himself. But I forgot how I started with that. Something about the the Grammys, and that was what she had to recover from. Was that embarrassment, that
right,
that ruinous moment. I mean, he's the guy snorting his pills, crushing them with his boot, taking his boot off and smashing the fucking pills on the table, and snorting what looked like to be fucking chunks. You know, the size of fucking, fucking walnuts.
So
anyway, that was quite the experience.
While we're in Entertainment Corner, we need to wrap up Moscow.
Oh yeah, finish it up. How about you?
Yes, same here. It was.
I found it extraordinarily satisfying.
Yes, they did an amazing job of tying up all the loose ends, and
we're both glad they did, aren't we? After North Country, we're both glad they did.
Yeah, and also like the first half of it was all like characters that we've grown to care about saying goodbye to one another, which is moving, and then they figured out how to wrap it all up, and in a way that's no one that we really loved. Everyone lived happily ever after. So
well, and I'll tell you, Ewan McGregor, we ought to think about the two of us as our homework, going back to the heroin addict movie that he did when he was younger. I'm trying to recall the name of it.
Trainspotting.
That iconic
Trainspotting.
There was also a sequel. There was a sequel of people it was not necessarily the same characters, but along the vein and years later, and different characters.
So it's a sequel?
It was maybe a sequel that's not a sequel, but I can't look at you because your lips are moving funny again. It's like, shit. I had to put my sunglasses on.
Exactly.
And now you're frozen with your Jack Nicklaus Joker face. Jesus Christ, you're frightening.
So, did you notice... First of all, did you notice what I pointed out before, that all the flashbacks were in 4:3?
Yeah. I did take that in, and it was interesting because in the final episode, they do that, and I wasn't sure that it was a memory. I thought that it was a switch to a different scene that was happening next.
Right.
And when I realized it was blocked out, I realized that it happened sometime before.
Exactly.
And so not only did I note it, but it was helpful to me. It became, in fact, a tool, if you would, if
Indeed.
you will, if you could.
I would.
If you might. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't predict you. I don't know. You may bless this approach. You may say that it's sinful and wrong. I don't know.
Did you notice in the last few seconds they broke the fourth wall and looked right at the camera? Ewan and the actress. When they were
sitting in front of their cottage.
Yeah, they looked right at the camera, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Well, but the camera was pretty far away.
It was, but
it was across It was across what you would call their front yard.
Yeah.
And so, looking at the camera,
they looked and smiled at the camera.
Yard, like, to me, where
they looked and smiled at the camera.
I'll look at that again. I don't remember it be. Oh, wait. You're describing the scene where they met each other.
No.
No,
the very last.
Not when they're in front of their cabin.
No, when they're in the cabin. Or in front of the cabin.
The very last scene.
The one thing that I wondered was...
I don't remember a close-up that showed.
No, it wasn't close-up. But anyway. I wonder how a gentleman that's used to having his food served and his wine from the cellar, how easily he can go to cabin life and living on the land.
In between, he was a waiter, so I think that it was a pretty good transition. He became someone who served rather than someone. He was also someone who was served, because that never stopped. But he was on the other end of that, and I think that very likely he had a pretty major hand, because I doubt that Mr. Urbanova, Miss Urbanova, was much of a fucking cook or a house cleaner.
Right, exactly. I think neither of them.
He was a house husband. He was the cook.
Right. I certainly believe he could cook, but I don't know, gardening and chopping wood and stuff. He seems like he has soft hands.
Well, but I have to deceive. Yes, soft hands. But I will tell you this: he was resilient.
Oh,
he was incredibly flexible. He rose to the occasion. Look at a man who we knew why he continued to look fit, is because his regimen every day was to keep fit, and he stayed fit. And that allowed us to imagine an aging Count who was aging not in terms of gaining weight as many men do over their later years. People do, in fact. In fact, I look back when I go to my class reunions from now over 50 years ago. Almost everyone that I meet is overweight.
Sure.
Almost all of them. They
go to these all-you-can-eat restaurants.
Big quantity. I want the 54 ounce. I want the 54 ounce prime rib. With the blood dripping all over the white table.
7 pounds of shrimp. Yeah.
You want pepper? They bring you a pepper thing that's about this big, right? It takes a full hand to be able to twist it. The pepper comes out. The peppercorns are cut into quarters. Oh, I remember the side of broccoli, man. It was 2 whole heads of broccoli.
Jesus.
And a big knife and a fork where you would cut the florets off to eat. I mean, just enormous basket. Potatoes piled up. Not mash, but I think salt boiled redskins, small ones.
Yeah. But
mushrooms,
quantities.
Mushrooms sautéed in butter and wine. Like a bowl that could feed 15 people.
Right.
And just huge spoons. And we were all like, man, I'm glad I haven't eaten since 10 o'clock this morning. We got to find the name of that place. Fond memory. I'm hungry too. That's the thing.
What a pleasing television show we got to consume. 8 episodes. Beautifully shot, beautifully made. I cared more about those characters than I care about. I can't remember the TV show where I cared more about the characters. Just the.
Well, and what's next?
Yeah. I don't know.
What's the up and coming? I know. The mayor's coming back. Jeremy Renner has recovered from his near-death accident, and he's back big. He's coming in first week of June.
That's another Showtime
show
of
Kingstown.
I don't get. I'll have to.
Well, that's for me. That's coming up, and I'm in the final 5 or 6 episodes of The Sopranos, So
Okay.
I'm in episode 54, 58, whatever. So that I'm looking forward to that. But I was sad that Gentleman in Moscow. I did look at the as I don't usually do in these episodes. You know, I'm watching more than one at a time, two at a time. Is I fast forward through the opening credits. In this case, this haunting modern art,
Yes,
moving art. That I purposely watched it from the last one and said I want to see this again because it's really something. It's strange because it's got a real emotional tug to it. It portrays the isolation and the difficulty of this gentleman in such a stark way that it helps you understand how alone he is, in spite of how he takes any companion that's thrown his way. You know, welcomes all friends. But at the end of the day, he goes upstairs to his little hovel up, which has the secret room through the wardrobe. Which
that was a. Who knows? Maybe that was in the book as well. But that was an interesting sort of writing trick to allow him some more space up there. But then it seems like everyone knew about the secret room.
But it wasn't the only entrance to the room.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
You know, everyone knew about the room because there was a door that you walked in. The fact that there was also this built-in cabinet,
right?
Two built-in cabinets, one on each room,
right.
shared a wall, and someone simply took the boards out. Of course, they were never plastered, which the rest of the room was. But what was interesting about that room was its grandeur because of its overhead lighting and the curtains and nondescript furnishings for the most part. But yes, you know, kind of the added grandeur is the way to think about it. That his other spot was so drab that you could understand, well, if I had access to that room and sunlight, that wouldn't be so bad compared to the dungeon. Like, he had one big window in his little where his bed was and his desk was.
And he seems to have pretty unlimited access to books, which were the primary entertainment of those years.
Well, you would in the largest, most famous hotel in Moscow, you would.
Yeah, right.
They have a library.
Makes sense.
It's probably where you order your drinks. You know, your bourbons or your and vodkas. I told you the story about the vodka bar across from the Washington Hilton, where there's a Russian restaurant, bar and restaurant, and they served 40, 60 kinds of fucking vodka.
Right.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. All I remember is when I went to Moscow, and I went out with some friends there, some local Russians, and they were all drinking beers, and I had to tell them, "Excuse me, can't we get some vodka up in here?" And they were like, "All right, sure, let's order some shots or whatever." But
were they Russians?
Yeah, but
So,
young Russians.
And so were you surprised that wasn't their go-to?
I assumed I would see more vodka than I saw, but there was one Russian guy that he was at. I went to several different meals with him, and we would all go to a restaurant and we'd order a meal, and he would go and order only a scotch, like no food, no nothing. He'd just sit there and sip on his single malt. Okay, it's so weird.
Well, if it's a
way to
single
live.
malt, they had to pay through the nose. He might have had to make a decision between dinner and 2 single malts.
Right, indeed.
That's $40. So I had an interesting thing happen today to move to the home improvement desk.
We've already. Speaking of the desk, I did some desk improvement.
Yes, you did. Well, that was how we opened
Exactly.
How we opened episode number what?
220, I think.
220. Wow.
So
we'll get to 222. Remind me. I have a story to tell. So I've been doing my front yard work. I've got a postage stamp front yard where you may recall it used to be a slope down to the road, and I added a large stone and several dump trucks full of topsoil and dirt, and made my front yard level with a hand-built stone wall at the sidewalk that has a gap between the bottom of the stone wall and the sidewalk. It's about 6 inches, and it's full of gravel, and I keep the weeds out of it. It's very neat and tidy. And then up above, around the perimeter of the rocks, is a 18-inch wide garden bed that goes up against the rocks, and on the other side of that is my lawn, and in between the lawn and the garden bed I have a trench that's a couple inches wide and 6 inches deep and barely noticeable unless you know it's there, but that keeps weeds and grass and all this other shit that's growing on my lawn to get into my flower bed. The flower bed has succulents that are draping and growing vine-like, now cascading over the rocks.
Okay.
And the black mulch that
succulents
also
on the rocks.
The black mulch that borders the growing beautiful red and green succulents marcates off the very 3-inch tall bright green grass, not a dandelion in it. And to the side of that, toward the southern style mansion that I live next door to, and the stone pillared black fence, metal fence that separates my property from him, where I have put my tent garage, which is 20 foot by 12 feet, and you may recall had to be replaced in major way, yes. And of course, from my yard, an L shape parking area leading to the garage, which is the top part of the vertical component of the L, is an extra parking space or two. Two, if you don't mind, Black.
As long as I don't have to draw a diagram as a quiz at the end of this.
Are you with me?
I'm near you.
Yes. Well, the guys driving in Indiana can draw it on the dust of their fucking windshield. But anyway, here's my point. That L-shaped parking area that leads into the tent garage had a huge trailer load of stone dumped on it today, tucking up against the stone rock border of my yard, and inside my garage, the sandbags that keep the garage from blowing away like the fucking scene from The Wizard of Oz when the high winds of Kalamazoo blow strong and hearty, and one wonders at night, will the garage hold?
Will the garage be there tomorrow?
Will it hold? Will you hold?
Hold, please.
Hold it. So here's back to the. I didn't do the politics test. So a witness for the Donald Trump trial for the defense was sitting there being grilled by the prosecutors, and frequently the defense team of lawyers objected to the questioning by the prosecutor. And at one point, when once again their stupid claim for objection was not withheld by the judge. The lawyer who was on the witness stand rolled his head sideways as if to say no, and said audibly, "Geez." And the judge emptied the courtroom, excused the jurors, had a back and forth with this man that ended up with him saying, started out by him saying, "You will not roll your eyes. You will not say geez when you don't like the thing. You will not say strike it when I admonish you for saying something that I don't want you to say. You'll this and that and the other." And then he says to him, "What are you doing now? Are you staring me down? Are you trying to stare me down? I will tell you this, I will not be stared down, and I will hold you in contempt of court if I see this one more time. Do you understand me?" And then, "Are you still staring me down? Are you still staring me down?"
Where do you want me to look?
Mistake about it.
I mean,
when the guy says "geez" on the stand, the judge interrupts what's going on, and he says, "I'm sorry," as if to say, "Excuse me." And the guy didn't answer him, and he said, "I said, I'm sorry." You like as if to say, "You spoke."
Oh, geez.
You know, and then it's over. The prosecution and defense are arresting. It's up to the jurors, and know this: there's only got to be one juror who doesn't agree.
Yep.
Doesn't agree that of the 3 crimes that constitute the felony that they used to prevent the voters from understanding information they needed for their vote, the felony that has to be an element of the guilty plea, there's 3 of them. Every juror has to agree that one of them is true. They don't have to agree which one. There's 3 felonies. There's 3 felonies that are being prosecuted.
Pick a felony, any felony.
And that's it. And one may say, "Well, you know, I kind of got my doubts about the second one, but the third one I'm sure of." The other one says, "Well, that's funny. I'm not so sure about that one. I'm certain about the first one."
Right.
The guy says, "Well, I'm not sure about the evidence, but it's strongest for the second one." And and then back and forth. There only has to be one that says one. I don't buy any of them. And the reason I don't buy them is because I don't buy the evidence. And here's the thing: these guys brought in Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen after they provided all the physical evidence that was needed for a conviction. And the only thing that these people were to do was to embellish that and make that even more concrete. And in hindsight, it did not work nearly as well as they had hoped in either case, because in both cases they have potential grounds for appeal, including this amazing finding during cross-examination by the defense of Michael Cohen, for the first time ever, admitted on the stand that he embezzled $60,000 from the Trump fund, from their money. This was never known before, and he admitted to it. And now they can say, not only do you have a convicted liar, an ex-convict who's been lying all his life, has admitted to lying on behalf of Donald Trump forever, never stopped lying, is still lying, and now what we know today is an embezzler who still will be prosecuted for this. You want to believe him? To which the prosecution says, you don't need to believe him. You need to look at the receipts.
Right.
You need to look at the emails. You need to look at that physical evidence. That it's too late, though. The issues that will be appealed, it's too late.
Right.
It's too late.
Well, I think I can sum it all up with one word. Jeez.
Jeez. Excuse me? What did you say?
That's such a Minnesota.
Excuse me.
Such a Minnesota curse word. Like, geez. Like in Fargo.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
Jeez,
Oh,
eh?
jeez. Oh, Marge, you got to get some eggs. You got to have breakfast before you go.
Jeez, Marge.
Oh, hey, Marge, I got the 2 cent. Oh, you got the 2 cent. That's so good. Yeah. Ralph Omega, he's the one who got the 5 cent. I wish I got the 5 cent or the 14, but that guy was from North Dakota. Oh, but the 2 cent, they use a 2 cent all the time. You're just short, you got 14 cent, you got to have a 2 cent. It's a duck. It's your best work. Oh, you think so, Marge? Yeah, I think so.
Jeez.
Check it, man. Put me side by side by the fucking script, broski. I gotta go, man. I got shit to do.
Love you. Talk next week. Peace.
Okay, that's it for episode number 220. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/220, where you will find a link to that particular scene in Fargo and the fact that it turns out there are 4 A Star is Born movies. Crazy. You can support the show at patreon.com/happyhour. We would really love if you could help do that. See you next week.